Welcome, welcome. How's to another episode of On the Way Home. I am your host, Michael Braithwaite, and I have the great pleasure of working with the wonderful folks at one half of the partners on this podcast, that is Blue Door. Blue Door is an organization that's been around for 42 years, doing wonderful work, supporting our most vulnerable. We help them with housing. We help them get healthy. We help them with meaningful, well-paid employment, and much, much more. Check out the amazing work our team is doing. Go to bluedoor.ca. We do this part in partnership with the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness. They're doing incredible work, advocacy work. They're doing training. They've got the ear of government. They're pushing the priorities of those experiencing homelessness forward and getting the government to pay attention, doing awesome stuff, and much, much more. Check them out at caeh.ca. Today, we have two wonderful guests on the podcast. Often when you're involved and supporting the most vulnerable, we have to raise funds, right? Outside of government dollars coming in. And we're so grateful to all levels of government for the support they give. We continue to push and advocate for more, but we have to fundraise as well. And part of that fundraising, of course, is talking with people and getting individual donors, but we also look at doing events. We want to do an event that's impactful, of course, that people understand and maybe learn a little bit. Awareness is created around homelessness, but also raises a lot of money as well for the cause. And that can be troublesome, right? Events are very staff heavy, meaning it takes a lot of staff time and efforts. And if you don't hit that right mark where a lot of people get out and support, you can actually lose money. And not create the awareness that you want. But today we want to talk about, I think in 2011, a group, Blue Sea Philanthropy, started a national event. It was going to happen on the same night across the country, and charities could choose to take part in it and run. It was kind of a kind of set up event for them that they could run in their community to raise dollars with some national momentum. And that's the Coldest Night of the year. A very cool event. My organization, Blue Door, has been involved now for years, and we love it, right? It's kind of set up for you in the sense that once you're signed up with Coldest Night with Blue Sea, you get on there and they have a website, and it's so easy for individuals, for families, for your supporters, for your sponsors, and everyone to get involved. You come together. This year it's on February 24th, and we walk 1 or 5 kilometers, and you make an event out of it. It's an incredible experience, deeply impactful, lots of awareness, and millions raised. And it used to be across Canada. Now it's across North America. In the past 3 years, we've had our American friends come on board. They've expanded it there. And today on the podcast, we're joined by Jen Taylor, who's the director at Blue Sea and has been doing that work for quite a long time and have been involved in that expansion. And we have the great pleasure of being joined by Dr. Darlene Sparks, who is the executive director at Portsmouth Volunteers for the Homelessness. She's doing for the homeless. Sorry, Portsmouth Volunteers for the Homeless. My apologies, Darlene. And they're doing incredible and impactful work in the U.S. supporting people experiencing homelessness. This is going to be their 3rd year at an event. Darlene tells us how she got involved, what the experience has been, what her hopes are for this year. Jen tells us about how the event came to be, what the experience has been, what the growth has been like, what people can expect if they're part of Coldest Night of the year, and much, much more. It's a great conversation that you don't want to miss. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed being part of Coldest Night of the year. I'm looking forward to this year's event. So let's go to that conversation now and hear all about it. A very special podcast today as we are joined by not one but 2 fabulous guests. We're going to talk all about Coldest Night of the year. You're saying, what is that? You will find out. But first, let's chat with our guests and find out a little bit about them. Jen and Darlene, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Michael. It's good to be here.
Great to be here.
All right, so we ask a question to all our guests that come on because there's no right or wrong answer. It's very personal to everyone. And that is, what does home mean to you? And we're going to start with Darlene and then go to Jen.
So that is a very loaded question. And home for me means a place of respite. It's a place of peace and rejuvenation.
Beautiful. Well said. Well said. And Darlene, like most people, you don't mention the four walls and a roof, right? It's not about that. It's about exactly what you
Exactly.
just said.
Exactly.
Jen?
I think for me, home is the place where I feel like I most belong. So often in a community of other people, my family, my friends, I love to be with people, very extroverted. But it also is in just like a physical place that I feel that I belong. I'm very adventurous. I love to be outdoors. I love hiking, camping, skiing is my all-time favorite. And so to be outdoors with my friends and family is definitely a place of belonging for me, and I feel most at home there.
Very cool. Thank you both. We want to learn a little bit about both of you. And we'll start, Darlene. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey into this work and as well a little bit about your organization?
So I would say I have had a very eclectic journey into this work. Most people would look and say a person who's working in homelessness would have experienced homelessness. That's not my story. However, I did experience loss and grief that sort of reset me. I've had a couple of careers, and in 2016, I happened to lose my mom and my husband on the same day, 12 hours apart. And that is an experience that definitely grabs your attention from the universe and go, okay, what is it that you want me to do? You have my full attention. What's next for me? And what was next for me was this job. 9 months later, I walked into the role of executive director here at Portsmouth Volunteers for the Homeless. And while I had, worked in many human services areas, I never worked in homelessness. And I thought, oh my goodness, what do I do? How will I be received? I had a lot of ideas and a lot of thoughts. And so, I kind of inhabited the position at Portsmouth Volunteers for the Homeless. And we are a nonprofit organization that provides support services for individuals who are experiencing homelessness, who would be living outdoors in places not meant for human habitation. We operate a day center where our clients can come and shower and do their laundry. What's more important than how we get to present ourselves to the world? It gives us the confidence to go out and tackle the things that we have to do. And then we operate a year-round night shelter, which gives our clients a place to be safe and warm and receive a hearty dinner meal to be able to, again, go out and face the world, to manage the things that they have to overcome to become housed again.
Sounds like an incredible organization doing impactful work. So thank you so much. Jen, let's talk a little bit about your journey. We know you are involved with Blue Sea, Coldest Night of the Year, but how the heck did you get there?
So I would say that I have always been really drawn towards helping people. And thankfully, I grew up in a home where my parents modeled that really well for me. I remember even at a young age that we would have people that would come home for dinner, and they came from all different walks of life. My dad would just say, "Hey, come on over. We'd love to have you." And I remember going actually to the Mustard Seed, which is a charity out in Victoria, BC, when I was a kid, and serving a Thanksgiving meal when I was less than 10 years old. And so it was pretty neat, all those years later when I joined Coldest Night and they were one of our partners. So I definitely had an experience of the importance of giving back and being a part of a community and taking care of our community from a young age. And all of the different jobs I considered throughout my younger years, and even through what I did in my 20s, it was always focused around helping people. And so whether it was a one-on-one scenario or a bigger level than that, I am the type of person who just really loves to inspire and encourage others. And I think that often charity leaders don't know how valuable they are to their community. And so being a part of Blue Sea and being able to work with charities directly and have that opportunity to help them to fundraise and to do something that's really valuable to them was something I was really drawn to. So I knew Brian Carney, our CEO, in a prior life, and I remember going to Brian and saying, I'm really interested in working in Blue Sea, but I've never done fundraising before. Would you be interested in hiring me? And we sat down in a Tim Hortons he pulled out a napkin and a pen and he said, "What are you good at?" And I just started listing off the things I thought that might be valuable to the organization. And his ears kind of perked up and he said, "Oh, we need some of that around here." And so that was 9 years ago. My job has evolved a lot over the years, but it has been a very rewarding experience. And it is interesting too, now having been 25 years since I graduated high school, a job like this didn't even exist at the time when I was originally considering a career. And so it's pretty neat how it's evolved, but it's allowed me to continue to help people in a way that inspires me and hopefully inspires them as well.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Coldest Night of the Year before we get into all the details of this year's walk and what's happening. There's some history here. How did this all get started? I mean, the event kind of speaks to it's a great branded event, but how did it all get started? How long has it been running, and what kind of growth have you seen?
Yeah, so Blue Sea Foundation is the name of our organization. We began as a charity in 2010. And at the time that we became a registered charity in Canada, we were running an event called the Ride for Refuge, which is very similar in nature to Coldest Night. It partners with charities mainly focusing on working with refugees. And it was going really well, and we were able to help a number of really great charities. And so Brian started thinking about some other causes that may be underrepresented in Canada. And he himself had a situation in his past where he had dealt with some financial loss and just felt really sensitive towards the cause. He had to use some resources and just knew the struggles of making sure that those resources were available for a charity, but also how valuable they were to an individual in different times in their lives. And so he just started thinking about ideas about kinds of charities to work with and the kinds of events, and a couple of things really stood out. So first of all, not a lot happens in February in Canada. So as far as competing with other events like galas and golf tournaments and all that stuff, we thought, February is probably a good time. And then also thinking about the experiential piece of Coldest Night. If somebody is experiencing homelessness or at risk of experiencing homelessness, what is it like to be out on the streets in February? And how can we help people to have a small taste of what that is? And then finally, the idea that these charities who are working so hard all winter to provide the resourcing and the support, a lot happens, as you know, leading up to Christmas. Everybody's all ready to help and support and do all that they can. And those resources start dwindling around February and March when you still need them. And so to have an event in February where the money's coming back to the charities by early spring was a way for us to be able to support a cause at the time when it was needed most. And so Brian, he ran the idea by a couple people, and he reached out to 3 charities and said, "Hey, is this crazy, or would you guys consider doing this with us?" And so the original Coldest Night of the Year launched mid-January. It's crazy to think of that now. And 5 weeks later, they had over 400 people participate, and $110,000 were raised for those 3 charities. So it was the beginning of what we never ever expected that it would come to where it is now, but it's still a very valuable story and means a lot to us that those original partners came alongside and have turned it. We feel like we're all in this together for sure, that it's been made into what it is by many charities saying yes to this crazy and exciting event.
Very cool. And you, of course, have expanded south of the border. And Darlene, we want to talk about that. This, I believe, is your 3rd year coming up. How the heck did how did you guys get involved? How did you even find out about this event?
So I believe it was a cold email from
Mika.
Mika. And we get so many emails that come across our desk with individuals trying to get us to participate in events and let us show you how to fundraise for a small fee. And it was just something about this event when I read it. Much of what I did before was about experiences and building experiences for people to engage them. So when I read it, I read the email, I was like, we're a little bit interested. So let me go talk to our board about it. Now, mind you, that comes on a decision that I made during COVID, which was we were not going to close. We were going to stay open and we were going to manage through COVID. And my board said, "Are you serious?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do know what I'm doing. I happen to serve as, a pandemic coordinator for a large organization before. And we did that. And we didn't have a COVID outbreak for 2 years. So from 2020 to 2022, we didn't have a COVID outbreak in a congregate shelter environment. So I think they trusted me when I said we're going to do this coldest night. And I had the call. I briefed my board and they said, okay, let's do it. Let's do it. And the first year, it was very successful. And we kept getting more experience, applying our lessons learned, and really engaging the community. I think for us, our first year was the first year that we were getting out from COVID. So the community was happy to be together outside. And we leveraged the churches that had been supporting us for our night shelter. We leveraged our local government. And people just saw this as a great way to come out, to be together and be outdoors for an amazing cause.
Perfect. What are your hopes for this year? What are you thinking? What are you trying to raise?
Well, last year we had a little over 350 walkers. So our goal is to, of course, I'm an incremental person. So, and I'm a little bit conservative. So I'm like, if we get 50 more people, 60 more people, let's get to, 400. So we had 40 teams last year. Our goal this year is to do 50 teams. And we're hoping to raise, $30,000.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. I'm sure you will. And it's smart, that old saying that under promise, over deliver, right? You want to do that
Exactly.
for sure. Yeah, yeah. Your
Exactly.
experience is showing through. Now let's talk about the expansion, Jen, into the US. It's I think only we said what, 3 years? Just Darlene was one of the
Yes.
first, right?
Yes, absolutely. The very first year. So we began back in 2011, and Coldest Night has kind of grown in Canada about 20 locations a year is typically how it's gone. And so over the years, obviously that builds up, and we're getting pretty close to 200. And Canada doesn't have a huge population, and especially when charities work really hard to build the event out within their community. And so they often take up a whole town, a whole city with their really awesome campaigns. And so we were thrilled at the growth that was happening. COVID actually, for most charities in this sector, as you well know, experienced kind of a building of awareness and also an outpouring of financial support. And so 2021 was a significant growth year for Coldest Night. And at that point, we were sort of thinking about returning to an in-person event, and we'd considered the US before, but wanted to wait until the time was right. And so 2022 was our first year in the US, and we began with 6 brave charities who were willing to come alongside us, and we purposefully started kind of in the northeast of the US, hoping that it would be as close to what our experience here in Canada was. And our partners in the US have been so gracious. There is a lot that's similar to Canada, but there are definitely some things that are different. We've worked really hard to indoctrinate the Tuk language into their culture, and they've been great to accept that for sure. And yeah, we're really thrilled with how things are moving along. So this year is just our third year, and we have 42 locations across the U.S. Kind of, it's not quite across. We're pretty much all on the east side of things at this point. But as far south as Durant, Oklahoma, they're still calling it cold down there, and we're more than happy for them to do that. So it's been wonderful to build out that experience, and even the collaboration between the two countries. At this point, we haven't segregated the partnerships. We're all in this together. Our Canada and US locations are in peer groups and trainings and all kinds of things together. And it's awesome how we can learn from one another as we see that expansion both in Canada and the US.
It's such a great event, and I'll tell you this. I mean, I've been in social service sector for a long time, and I think events take a lot of time, and often, if you actually factor in staff time, you might be actually losing money, right? And then people lose when people leave an event. They're like, "Yeah, it was a great gala. What was that all about again?" Right? I had fun, but the impact might not be there. So I love that about this event. I mean, straight from the name, you know what you're doing, you know what you're going for, time of year, that kind of thing. Darlene, how did you know it was right for you? Like, what helped you convince your board and make the choice it was right for your organization?
I think because I came from another nonprofit who one of our mottos was a business of the heart. So I understood that we are a nonprofit organization and there are business operations that have to be in place in order for us to be successful. The turnkey nature of all of the support materials was a big win because it helped us with the heavy lifting. To be able to talk about our communities as market segments and what's going to appeal to those market segments, those donors. It was the business approach that really made it appealing to me. I think a little bit differently than other nonprofit leaders, and I understand the economics of running a nonprofit, so that was really good. And again, we just needed something. We set out on this campaign when I came on board, changing the paradigm of our perceptions about homelessness. And we felt if we could get the community to see homelessness differently, they would buy in. We help and we support people that we like. And so if I could make homelessness likable, so that people didn't just look in faces of individuals who are experiencing homelessness and walk away. If I could make it personal without them having to be homeless, that would appeal to their hearts. And this event did that because it gave them a glimpse of what individuals have to endure to be outside. And it was about building community support that says, we will shepherd this response, and it is the community responsibility. So that part of Coldest Night was very attractive to us.
Very nice. And Jen, how does an organization know if Coldest Night is for them? How do you, when you're talking with an organization, I mean, they can say, well, maybe we'll do our own walk or do our own thing. I know the answer to this, but I'm setting you up for why Coldest Night over just kind of doing your own event.
Yeah, I think that we often use the term national local, which is the idea that it's a national event, but that the money stays local. And I think the charities that fully embrace that idea and want to be part of something bigger and work together on this is an important piece to it. So we've expanded out a lot with our corporate challenge and having businesses that sponsor in multiple locations. We have groups like the Rotary Club and the Kinsmen that partner in multiple locations across the country. And so I think you have to trust that the process will work. And that's a big part of it. And I think that more important than anything else is leadership. And I can say this to both of you because you have done a fantastic job at your organizations of doing this, but leading well and believing in Coldest Night from the beginning is 100% the most important piece to a successful campaign. Knowing that even if you're the CEO or the executive director who isn't on the ground running the event, you are still putting on that toque and you are still saying, this is really important to our organization. And you're there on event night and supporting it well. And I think that's knowing that you're part of something much bigger and wanting to be a part of something that's much bigger, but also giving up a little bit of that sense of, it's just about us, to be a part of something bigger has really helped charities to fully embrace it and to grow with it. And for all of us to kind of benefit from the growth. And it's neat because we are obviously quite a bit further down the road in Canada, but we're seeing the US on exactly the same trajectory. Businesses and individuals are noticing and they're seeing, oh, this isn't just one charity, this is a whole bunch of charities working together to make this thing happen. And so that collaboration is attractive to people for sure. And so embracing that is key, I think, to really winning with Coldest Night.
Now we're talking about now a North American movement on one night. It's something that ease up. Everyone can take part. You can walk, got to roll. You can you do 1 kilometer. You can do 5. You could be a volunteer. You could be a sponsor. It's an easy way. It's quick. It's that night. It's a few hours and you're done. It's pledge based. And for people to understand, when you do your own event and you're having to, if you had to design your own site where people could do a pledge-based site and you had to design all your own marketing materials and you had to market all of that and it wasn't done nationally, like that's all done, the ease of use for this. So if my dad says, I want to join the team, you send a link, boom, boom, boom. Even my dad, who's 82, could sign up with these, who's not super computer savvy, and get on there and he could come out and walk, right? Be a part of the solution. It really is very, very easy to do. And that event is going to, the name says it all. You bring people together, as Darlene said. You can really get your message across quick. Hey, what I do, Darlene, I've been doing this for a few years now with my organization, Blue Door. And so I try and raise a certain amount every year. I throw down a challenge to try and raise those amounts. I don't always think it through so well, though. The first year, the challenge was we're near a lake, and I said, well, I'll end my walk by jumping in this lake. And it was minus 22. Canada, so I don't know. You don't even know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it was very, very cold. So I did that if I raised $10,000. And last year we did this thing. There's a stinky fish challenge. It's like the stinkiest fish in the world. Comes in a can. And if I raised a certain amount, I was going to eat that. It was terrible. So I've got to think it through. This year, I'm going to start from the base of Yonge Street, which is the longest street in the world, believe it or not, in Toronto. I'm going to walk 25 kilometers and then finish with the 5 kilometers at the end.
Wow.
With one of my board members, right? If I raise I'll do it anyways. But that I'm saying, if I want to try and raise $10,000, right? Towards so it's fun to get those challenges. And our COO, Emmy Kelly, is very, very competitive. And last year I think I beat her by $18, which I think almost put her over the edge and it was the last minute. So I think this year is her year. She seems to be doing really, really well. So it's a lot of fun as well. And the Coldest Night team to work with, a great team, easy, fun. If someone wants to find out more about Coldest Night of the year, and if they want to find out, or we'll start with that. And Darlene, if they wanted to sign up for your event or find out more about your organization, Portsmouth Volunteers for the Homeless, where can they go? We'll start with Jen and we'll swing over to Darlene.
Yeah, so Coldest Night of the Year is CNOY.org in Canada and CNOY.org or .com in the US. And so you can go to either one of those pages and you can sign up. And if there isn't a charity close to you, you can choose to walk for any charity that you like and walk on your own. But of course, we highly recommend if you're in a location to choose the location that is closest to you and to go out and have a great time. I remember last year we did a survey and had people fill out the surveys after the event. And the one that sticks with me so much is an individual who said, the life that was most changed by my participation in this event was my own. And it's just incredible what the night means to be a part of something that is happening across all of North America. And I love that story. I remember watching your Stinky Fish commentary over last year's campaign, but that's such a fun part of what makes it what it is. We've got an event director who's also a CEO in Oshawa, and it's always the youth charities. Guys who've worked with youth always have the best ideas, but he's done everything from shaving his legs to walking 10K in a kilt to put all kinds of things. And it's just so fun to see how people get competitive with each other. And we've had locations that are on opposite sides of the country who are in this deep rivalry of competition where they have nothing in common except the number on their scoreboard. A couple of years ago, a charity leader out in Annapolis Valley picked up the phone, called an executive director in St. Catharines and said, "We've never met, but you are always one location ahead of us on the scoreboard, and this is the year we're going to beat you." And so it's just awesome to have that competition, but also for the good of it. Our top two locations in all of Canada last year were number 1 and number 2 on the scoreboard, and they are 5 kilometers away from each other out in Vancouver. And that, like, absolutely, it's just, that fun little, oh yeah, we got to get ahead. Oh, everyone's trying to just be a little bit more, right? Whether it's a participant or a team or a charity, everyone is working hard for the cause. And so it's just awesome. It's a great night, and we would love to have as many people as possible join in.
Very cool. And I hope they do. Remember that CNOY.org, or in the US, CNOY.com. Darlene, if people want to find out more about your wonderful, impactful organization, where can they go?
So they can look us up on Facebook, Portsmouth Volunteers for the Homeless. But they can also go to CNOY.com, scroll down to Virginia, and select Portsmouth, and they can link to us from our landing page as well.
Very cool, and I hope they do that. Last question for you both. What can they expect this year? People show up for Coldest Night of the Year in your location, Darlene. What do they have to look forward to?
Well, our first year, it was cold. Our second year, it was cold and rain. We are not looking for cold, rain, and snow. So I just think they will find an incredible group of individuals who want to do the best that they can. We brought on some new sponsors this year that we're very excited about. And, we're just going to have winterific family fun together as a community. And we're excited, and we just can't wait.
How cold does it get around where you are? Like, are we talking snow and ice and no?
Approximately 30 degrees. So it's been hovering around 30, 31. But like I said, the first year was cold, and then the next year we got the experience with adding the cold and the rain and the wind. And so we've had a lot of lessons learned so that we can prep for whatever comes this year.
Yeah. This is an event that will go on, rain, shine, or snow. Jen, what are your hopes across the country? What can people expect when they go out? It's different everywhere, right?
Absolutely. But I think, the most important thing, of course, is that we are all exposed to the seriousness of the cause. We often say the cause is serious, but the event is fun. And that's what it's all about. We want everyone to have a small taste of what it's like to experience homelessness, and then to be driven towards action for that. Coming out to be a part of Coldest Night is such a great start, but the event should just be the beginning. And so we really hope that more and more people will become involved in their local charities and will find ways to be engaged all year round, and to continue to partner in their communities to work towards ending homelessness and being a part of resourcing the communities and the needs that they have.
Awesome. Well, congratulations to you both. I think this year is going to be the best year yet. It just gets better every year. Darlene, thank you so much for all you and your organization do in support of our most vulnerable. And Jen, thank you so much for leading this charge across North America now. So appreciated. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to come in and talk with us on the podcast.
Thanks so much,
Thank you so
Michael.
much. We appreciate it.